My name is Bryant Francis, and if you can see this, you can probably not see me. I am the mysterious voice in your head, as always. But I am a contributing editor at Gamasutra, and I'm here today, joined by three wonderful faces in the bottom left-hand corner. Chris and Alex, could you please introduce yourselves?
Thank you for the wonderful taste compliment. I really appreciate that. I'm Chris Graft, editor-in-chief of Gamasutra.
And I'm still Alex Waro, an editor at Gamasutra, and we're joined today by a very special guest. Why don't you do us the favor of introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Playerunknown, or Brendan Greene. I created the Battle Royale game mode that's seen in Arma 3, H1, King of the Kill, and now in Battlegrounds.
Nice. As you can see, we are playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Not just Battlegrounds, but PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Unlike our normal streams, we aren't quite playing this live. This is some pre-recorded gameplay, but we are live with Brendan. So feel free to chat to ask questions of Brendan that we will answer for you. And we will also be asking our own questions and talking about this little gameplay session we had the other day that was pretty fun. We actually did pretty well for a bunch of people, B2B games writers who don't get to practice games a lot.
Yeah, we did all right.
So to start off, Brendan, for those of some of our Gamasutra regulars may not be super familiar with what you've done, can you sort of walk us through your modding career on the Battle Royale mod and how it led you to making PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
Okay, so I was making mods on Arma. I had like a DayZ mod server back in Arma 2, maybe 4 years ago. And I ran that for about 6 months and discovered the joy of scripting and creating mods in Arma, and then decided to make my own mod and called it Battle Royale. And then when DayZ, the standalone game, launched, I moved the mod over to Arma 3 and ran it there for maybe another year. I was approached then by Sony Online at the time when they had H1, and they licensed my game mode for inclusion in H1, which then grew into be King of the Kill. And then about a year ago, I was approached by a Korean company, Bluehole, to make my vision for the Battle Royale game mode. And I've been doing that for the last year, and now you have Battlegrounds, which is it.
Nice. I think actually, really quick, a lot of the people in chat are saying they want to see PlayerUnknown instead of the gameplay. So I'm going to take a minute really quick.
No.
No, you sure? You don't want to just blow you up full screen?
Hey, listen.
I'm going to improvise really quick. I won't blow you all the way up, but I'm going to oblige the people in chat here because I don't quite.
Let me oblige them, Ham.
This is what we do. We invite guests on, and then we make them just feel uncomfortable. So
that's fine. Player somewhat more known now.
Player known.
As far as the gig you have at Bluehole right now, you're creative director there. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what it's like working for such an international team? You travel quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I spend in Korea. We had, when we were building the game, about 30 to 40 people on the team. Some of them were foreigners, basically. We had guys in Montreal, in Russia, in, I think, a guy in Iran doing some of our models as well. But the main body of the team was based in Seoul. And I was out there for, as I said, for the last year, working with them. And they're an amazing team. I'm lucky to have found them because we were kind of allowed to do our own thing within the company. Like Bluehole's a big company. They have, I think, about 500 employees and making many games. So we're one team within that. And, we've been lucky to have a management team that basically let us do what we want to do and trust our vision for the game. And I'm lucky to have, as a creative director, like a producer that has the same vision as me and, trusts what we want to do. And as a result, we've got a game that, we're very, very happy with.
I think what is so interesting to me about this whole project is the high visibility. I joked earlier that we're in the middle of the zeitgeist, but the game seems to be doing really, really well. So congratulations to you and your team. I think a lot of developers sort of dream and dread maybe in equal measure this sort of success. And I sort of wanted to check in and see how things are going with you and your team personally. Like, as the demand for this game has risen so high, like, have you had to face any interesting challenges? Like, how has the work environment been for the last couple of weeks?
Listen, when we were all kind of shocked at the speed of sales and reaching that 2 million after like 5 weeks. We got huge CCU as well. I think we're close to 150k CCU on Steam, which is like, they're crazy big numbers. But really, back in Seoul, we're expanding the team to about 60 people. We just moved into a bigger part of the office so we can expand. We're getting new people like data scientists, stuff like this, to really start honing down and polishing off the game now. And that's what the goal here is that we've said early access about 6 months. So, we're focused on getting this now polished and optimized and getting it at a point where it feels like a finished game, basically.
I think a lot of developers sort of struggle with, I shouldn't say struggle, but like we often see games in early access for a year or longer, sometimes multiple years. 6 months seems very tidy. Do you feel any pressure on that, or have you already have any scoped in advance and you're just sort of running down the milestones? We
have an internal set of milestones that we kind of, we want this by this by this, and I think we can accomplish it. We've got a very smart team, and they're very dedicated. Like, a lot of these guys, when they're not working on the game, they're working on their own stuff in the office, and a lot of that is like new guns for the game, or they're just really passionate about making this the best battle royale experience out there.
Yeah, there's some chatter in the chat, and I want to address this. Like, we went and looked up an older interview you did with PC Gamer, so I think we have some clarity on this. But just to reiterate, like, this is a game concept you've been working and iterating on for a while. Can you, like, the license you signed with Daybreak, that wasn't exclusive, right? So there's no
No. So when I was working on Arma 3, John Smedley approached me. Basically, Adam Clegg and Jimmy Wisenhunt internally had been kind of bugging him, kind of going, look at this game mode. It's very good. We should, maybe talk to this guy about including it in H1 as this kind of extra game mode. And, when I was talking with John initially, I said, do you want this to be exclusive? And he was like, no. How can the Battle Royale grow as a game mode if it's like exclusive to us? So, I was very fortunate to have him like on my side from the start, where it's a non-exclusive license, and I've really kind of let them do their own thing now. I don't really work with them anymore, and they do their own thing with King of the Kill, and now I have the chance to do my thing with Battlegrounds. So it's been great. I've been very lucky in that regard.
Can you talk a little bit about the design, like just the core design of it, like how you came up with it, and very initially prototyped it, even before Battlegrounds. It's a simple concept, in theory, but where did you even think that up?
Oh, so back in Arma 2, I had a DayZ mod server, and I noticed, like, we made our DayZ mod like the Call of Duty of DayZ, where it was lots of weapons around the place. I modified the loot table so stuff spawned a lot, and we had a lot of people coming in, and I noticed that people were coming in, spending an hour or so playing, and then killing people and then leaving. And I saw what the Survivor games did in DayZ mod, and I liked that concept, but I wanted it to be completely automatic, basically, where everything was controlled by the server, and I created Battle Royale from that. And, it was just, for me, it was just trying to come up with a concept that would change every time you played it, that every time you played the game, it felt like a different game, and you were never too comfortable playing the game. There was always that level of fear because you weren't quite sure what you're going to get. And that's what my end game here was to create a game that felt different every time and tested you as a player in as many different situations as I could.
Yeah, and I appreciate that as I'm playing. So I used to play a lot of shooters and stuff, but these days I just don't have much time to do that. But I picked this up, and at first you're literally just dropped onto a map, and it's an easy concept because it's like, oh wait, I had to stay away from that circle, and then there's a red circle over there. I better like hightail it out of here. But that was one of your things though, and there was an interview that we ran with you pretty recently that you wanted to basically compel the player to move constantly.
Well, this is it. It's always been like the red zone has always been since the Arma days of the mod. It's been kind of just something to strike fear in your heart that when you see the GPS light up red, you just go, oh shit, and you're running somewhere else. And it's more just to add tension to the game and maybe to move people around that are like camping around. But again, these are elements that shouldn't really kill you, that the game is fast enough that you're moving constantly anyway if you're a smart player.
So
I was going to jump in with the chat question.
Do it.
How do you, as Pet asks, how do you try and get yourself good on a market when H1Z1 has been able, they've had their version of your mod out for longer?
Yeah.
I guess the way to evolve that question is obviously you've sold 2 million copies, so it seems to be you're doing quite well. But how do you? I mean, the genre is both crowded and yet apparently not too crowded because it seems there's room for lots of developers right now. Sort of, how do you feel about that from a business side?
I mean, looking at gaming is growing at a massive rate at the moment. I mean, that it's with the growth of both esports as well, and just gaming is becoming much more mainstream than it was, if that's even a point. But that I think that we just tried to make my vision for Battle Royale, that I didn't see this as competition, and I look at it, look at League and Dota, 2 MOBAs basically that are massive and have their own fan bases. And I think, the Battle Royale genre can have this as well. I think, everyone says to me it's a fight, and it's really not. It's like I enjoy H1 and my game is different. It's not meant to copy or dethrone anyone,
Yeah, and I feel like there's some precedent for this. If you look at the way Defense of the Ancients, that mod for Warcraft 3, kind of spun out into its own genre, and a lot of those original modders were heavily involved with sort of like the more fully realized versions of the game, like Ice Frog and stuff. But it is sort of still rare to see. I hesitate to say this is a new genre, but there are multiple games in this category. They seem to be doing relatively well, and it's rare to see that sort of spring up the way it has here. I'm sort of curious to know where do you see the future of this game going? Do you see, for maintaining this game, is it all about releasing new content, new maps, new stuff, or is it about honing it down to an endlessly replayable, some might say esport level kind of online game?
Well, I mean, for us, there's 2 facets to the game. There is the Battle Royale game mode that it's, it'll take some work to get it into a proper esport, because there's stuff we need to do and stuff we need to change to make it playable, especially in a live setting. But there's also our aim to create a platform for other game modes, for user mods and stuff like this, and custom games, and use it as maybe Battle Royale won't be the esport. It'll be something else that someone creates using our platform. But for us, it's getting the game playing well and performing well, and that platform existing. And if an esport develops out of it, fantastic. But for us, right now, it's just about getting the game running well.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Someone in chat is asking, and this segment on the video we're all very proud of because we just got ambushed 3 times in a row and survived.
Can I just narrate this really quick?
Yeah,
please do.
Here, this is what I like about this game, and I like games that really allow for emergent gameplay, as they call it. So I was kind of tailing Alex, and we were teamed up, and it was Bryant with somebody else, and then we find this warehouse, and we're sneaking around, and I think I kind of blew our cover by accidentally shooting my shotgun off. The shotgun's pretty loud, and this game has really great stuff with sound trajectory. You guys blogged about it a little while back, just explaining how if somebody shoots a bullet from somewhere, you can kind of tell where it's coming from just by sound. And distance. So not too long after that, just small teams of people in their jeeps started just descending upon this warehouse, and then it became a pretty good place for us to hunker down in, and we were able to defend it. No thanks to me, really. I'm the one who attracted everybody
Well,
there. So.
alternatively, like super thanks to you because we had nothing and then everything just came to us.
Yeah.
It's nice when that happens.
Yeah.
I think my reaction to this entire scene was I like how, even though this felt stressful, it also felt unstressful. I was surprised by how, because all three of us were friends, and then thankfully Ryan, as you can see here, was a very nice guy. Like, the cooperativeness, it felt way less stressful than similar encounters I've had in League. Even, like, it didn't feel quite as high of a high to make it through, because it still felt like, well, crud, there's still 41 people out there. But it also felt like, whoa, like the social, this game is actually very oddly friendly, I feel like, which is odd given the sort of bleak nature of it.
I think it's the fun element. I think that gives it that friendly nature. It's that, these crazy things happen, and they happen quite a bit, where you're in crazy car fights or, that you're locking down somewhere, and that kind of element of fun in a game. I think, and as well, we have a great community. I mean, I think that's one thing that really helps the game is we have a community that want this to succeed. A lot of them have been following me since like the Arma 2 days. And now they see me finally getting a chance to make my own game, and they want it to be the best game possible. Now, it's not going to copy Arma 3, and it's not going to copy H1, as, quite a few want. But, yeah, it's, I think it's just a fun game. It's still very competitive, and there is a good skill tree there. But it's just fun.
Yeah, I would love to dig into for a second the tricky challenges of making this fun and competitive in an engine like Unreal 4 with a player count like 100, because that seems I'm always like this game looks a little fussy sometimes. Yeah, it's in early access, and there's a lot of people on the map, but when it comes down to encounters, opening doors, firing bullets, whatever, like I almost never see any noticeable lag or any like noticeable problems that would be sort of frustrating, and that's important in a game like this that is so tense to begin with. There's some questions in chat that I kind of want to get to. This is Unreal Engine 4. How did you optimize it and make it run so well with this huge sprawling map scene and like player counts that are regularly around 100?
Some very clever people in the company did some magic with code and stuff. No, we work with there's some guys in Spain and Ticto. They did a system called Mutable that was in I think APB Reloaded. And a few they do character customization system. It's the one we use for our skeletons and for characters. But they looked at added like level streaming to the game, and there's still a lot of network issues we have to resolve that are like problems with the Unreal. Like Unreal Engine is great, but it's not designed for 100-player open world maps.
Right.
That's not the games Unreal or Epic even make. They're smaller level based games, and that's great. So and Unreal is great because it's open source, so we can go in and try to make fixes ourselves. There are some issues that we have to get their help to fix because they're big issues. But overall, we've been really happy with what we can do with Unreal. And again, it's a credit to the team we work with. They made it look beautiful. It's a great looking world, and we still have to improve that.
Yeah, did you benefit at all? I mean, you hired some folks, you had folks in Spain and stuff, but at Bluehole itself, like here in the West, we know it best as an MMORPG developer, right? We know it best for Terra. And I wondered, were you able to apply anything that studio has learned from running those kinds of experiences to the way you designed and built Battlegrounds?
I mean, all the level designers and the game designers that we have, they're very much used to the MMO games, and they have spreadsheets, folders and folders of spreadsheets calculating every little thing to do with loot and circle damage and all this kind of stuff. And it's great because they really have a lot to analyze then, and we get a lot of data in. And their experience with these complex systems, it makes it easier for us to design the systems we have. And I think they've done a great job. I mean, everything feels, right in the game. We still have to do some balance passes, obviously, to weapons and add some other stuff. But I'm really happy with what they've done. And I think, it's their experience building more complex systems that's led them to give this great system for Battlegrounds.
Can you talk a little bit about what the iterative process looks like within the studio when you're doing open development? You're watching people play, you're listening to what they say. How does that process work within your team?
Well, usually, coming up to launch, we had like an 8-week cycle where 6 weeks spending development, then 2 weeks QA and testing that build, and then playing the crap out of that build, and then moving on to the next 8-week cycle. And that continued up until launch. Now, for launch, we have a monthly cycle where we'll do development, we have a daily, weekly, and monthly. So we have our weekly stuff, so develop up until Wednesday, push it to the test server, then roll it out Thursday, and continue on that. And especially for our monthly updates, it's 3 weeks development, a week testing, and having feedback from the community. We get like it collected from the forums, and every month we'll look and go through and discuss what people are talking about. We still have our own plan for the game, but we do look at like the major hitch points and the major problems that people have with the game and try to address those with, sometimes weekly patches or sometimes monthly patches.
Yeah, we were talking to Funcom about Conan and the way that they take player feedback. For them, it was more of they have the roadmap, but then they look at player feedback, then they reprioritize issues that were usually already on the roadmap. Is that typically what you do?
Yeah, I mean, we have, like, I get so many suggestions for so many things in the game, and there's stuff we have internally, like, mapped out to be added, or, that people haven't heard that we're working on this. And I try to reply to the most of them as I can, and I do that as well. Like, I spend some time in our Discord every weekend and just chat to the community and answer questions, and let them then inform the rest of the bigger community at large, which is great. But yeah, I mean, we do reprioritize stuff based on certain feedback, but generally, especially for a game for Battle Royale, what's most important is the gunplay and how weapons feel and how the game feels. So, we use a lot of data to really sort of tweak that the best we can.
I'm going to leap in and jump. And there's a lot of good questions in the chat. We'll try to get as much as we can. One that Azpet just asked, is something I want to know as well, which is how do you manage balance in these matches? Since it appears like everything is dropped at random, players dropped at random, locations are random. How do you manage what is your conception of balancing this game, and how do you manage it on a round by round basis?
It's a tough one, but I mean, we have, as I said, spreadsheets, so many spreadsheets, but we can calculate exactly how many of each weapon we want to spawn on the map. And the loot system we have, though it appears random, there is some logic to it and there is some limits to it. But for me, that's what makes it kind of competitive. If you're smart about how you play and you look at the top players that are on top of the leaderboards, they're winning consistently because they know how to play the game. So there is this skill tree there that you can learn and that you can be a better player. That, the loot, while it appears random, there are limits, and we can kind of. But I that for me is what the core of Battle Royale is that you're never meant to be too sure. And whether that translates into a great esport, I think yes, because it's testing you as a player in that moment. And even if you've got a pan, you should be able to win. Highly unlikely, but
that gives me hope. That gives me great hope.
Alex is the panhandler.
But Bendo has a question I can relate to. Question: why am I so bad at this game?
I'm terrible at my own game.
Yeah. There was another good question that we should circle back to. I'm going to look up who asked it, but Tuner Steve has wanted to know, since you mentioned that you want to see this game ideally with its own mods, what kind of mod do you want? What kind of mods do you envision people creating for this kind of game? Where could you see this going outside your hands?
Oh, I mean, you just have to look at, say, Arma 3 and what kind of mods are popular there, and I think you'll see them in Battlegrounds as well. And stuff like life mods and RP mods are very big, and I think, I don't know. I can't wait to see. I would expect someone will probably try to make a zombie mod. I mean, which will be bizarre, after me coming from the DayZ mod back in Arma 3 or Arma 2 to then someone making a zombie mod in my game, which would be, I don't know how I'd deal with that.
I want to jump off that question with my own question, which is this. It's cool that your game is it was a mod off of DayZ, which was a mod off of Arma 2, which meant it came off these games that kind of had a survival component, which was dropping you into a world and survival wasn't just about not getting killed by other players, but also managing tense, organic interactions with people, like trying to figure out if they're going to shoot you or not. But in this game, you've streamlined that down to a more like who you're shooting and you know who not to shoot scenario. How do you feel about stripping back the survival into a combat thing? It's kind of a broad question.
That's what I kind of fell in love with DayZ. I wasn't a real gamer, I don't consider myself a gamer. I have never played Zelda. I don't care when Half-Life 3 comes out. It's like these kind of for me, DayZ got me back into gaming because there was no linear storyline. There was nothing. It was just you spawn and you try to survive and you try to hunt and kill people if you want to, and I love that element of DayZ of finding whatever weapon you could find and then trying to kill people. And with Battle Royale, I just wanted to compress that, as you said, and sort of, the looting element and working with what you have and proving that you're a better player than the other player just by what you get. And that's what, my core idea for the game is.
I don't think I've ever seen you talk about this. I'm sure you have, but I just want to know personally, what were you doing before you started modding games? Before you were a paid game designer, what were you working on?
I was a photographer, a designer, graphic designer, web designer in Brazil.
Nice.
And the last 2 years I was playing DayZ and I created Battle Royale mod. And it got quite popular. And I came home to Ireland as an out-of-work designer and photographer, trying to break into a market where everyone was a photographer. And I had this game mode and I was making it. And then luckily Daybreak or Sony Online gave me the break I had. And now I'm making games. I've been incredibly lucky. But there
and
was
now everyone is a game developer. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Even me. I worked on Battle Royale as a mod for 2 years, and no pay. I still pay for the Arma 3 servers out of my own pocket. I pay something like about $2,000 every month just to keep the Arma 3 servers online because I want to give it back to the community. It's why we're doing this charity event tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow, and it's just giving back when we can.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Can you mention that a little bit? There was news about that going around yesterday, just for people who don't.
So we're doing a charity invitational tomorrow with 64 players from NA and 64 players from EU. It's just 1 day of raising money for Gamers Outreach. It starts in the morning. I'm not sure of the time, but if you check out Twitter, it's there. But I can't wait. It's going to be. I love doing these big Battle Royale events for charity. We get to help people that really need it, and it's just a whole ton of fun playing it.
Yeah.
Did your background as a photographer and designer influence or shape the way you work on this at all, or are these just two totally different pieces of your life?
No, I mean, from a photography point of view, in the game, we're going to hopefully have 3D replays in engine that I want cinematic cameras there so you can record your round back and create machinimas using the tools we give you. But from a design point of view, when I was first creating the mod and even to this day that posters and artwork we do, I try to keep it as well designed as possible. There's that kind of I have quite high standards.
So did you make all the in-game did you work on the in-game graffiti and art at all?
Oh no, that's all. I have teams of people to do that now. It's been really hard as well. Coming from being a modder and not doing everything, but doing a lot of the stuff from the artwork to helping with coding and managing servers, and now being a creative director where I'm essentially the visionary and I have teams to do this. And for the first few months I was there, I was micromanaging a little bit and kind of just sticking my fingers in, going and know this and this, and now I've kind of relaxed a little bit.
Do you like
we have
it more?
A great team.
Do you like that more or less than being very hands-on and getting into the guts of the game?
No, well, since because I modded in Arma, which it's not the same as modding in Unreal, basically. There's a lot more stuff you can do. And I wrote Battle Royale in about 2,500 lines of code. It's not very complicated. It's a simple idea, right? So because I'm not really familiar with the Unreal Engine and I'm not a games industry vet, so I don't know what the technology can do, it's led to me to have a lot more freedom, I guess, when designing games, because I can ask for stuff that they might tell me, no, that's very hard. But, it just opens my mind up a little bit when it comes to designing and how the game works.
Nice.
It's always interesting hearing modders who have, they started out as hobby game developers / modders, and then they become professionals. Do you have any advice or learnings from your own personal experience for other people who are, messing around with mods and kind of have these aspirations to become the next Playerunknown?
I mean, it's really, for me, it's a case of like, don't senselessly copy something else. It's like if something has had success already, don't just be another clone of it. I know it's hard not to do. Like, I mean, even with Battle Royale, it's not my idea. The Survivor games on DayZ existed before I did, and Battle Royales have existed in many other games as Last Man Standing Deathmatch. But for me, it's just find something that you want to play. It's what Battle Royale is for me. It's a game I want to play, and I think, doing that is much more worthwhile than like trying to make a game you think other people want to play.
That lines up. We ran. We did an interview like a month ago now at GDC with Warren Spector, and they covered a lot of stuff. But near the end, he mentioned he advised game developers to do two things: to try and be passionate about what you're making. Try to make something you want to play, if you can, and to try to add one new thing. And like the comments, some people like sort of took him down for that by saying like you have to make something innovative, practice what you preach. But I think the idea is like a game like this is not necessarily like breaking the mold in any way, but it adds something new and different upon, or in many ways subtracts from something like H1Z1 King of the Kill that helps it stand apart. And I think that is something worth studying. Does that make sense?
I mean, for us, when I first started doing press for this game, before we even launched, people were going, so what's going to make your game different? What's going to make your game stand out? And for me, it's, the Battle Royale game mode that's in it has been something I've been working on for 4 years, all the way through mods. H1 took it, they simplified it a little bit and ran with it. And with Battlegrounds, because it was my first standalone version of the game mode, I got a chance to do it the way that I thought it should be done, which is with a lot of weapons and a lot of attachments and different levels of armor and this kind of stuff. And that's proven to be what's made us stand out, so to speak. It's not innovative, really, but, what I think, really makes us the innovation feature, I think, is the knockout in squad mode, where you can knock someone down and revive them. Again, it's not an innovation. It's been done in many other games, but in the Battle Royale space, I think it's a nice feature to have. And that was
innovation is like overrated. People talk about it.
Right.
It's a ghost. Like you're chasing like something that it's just a ghost. I mean,
there's no need to be different. Just to be different. Just make it good, please.
And like when I was playing, so I hadn't played DayZ in a while, and then Battlegrounds comes out, and immediately, it just feels like I kind of thought of it as DayZ is kind of a marathon, whereas this feels like a sprint, getting all of the DayZ experience. It's twisted a little bit, but it's compacted down into minutes.
Yeah. No, but that's what Battle Royale always was. It was that survival experience, but with the PvP kind of forced at the end. There is an end game there.
Yeah. I'm going to pull a question from way back in the chat from Shovelware Games. What is your favorite fail story? What mechanic did you really want to work or had high hopes for that just didn't pan out? But because it's early access, I'll add, would it yet work out? Could it yet happen?
There's been nothing really have failed mechanics yet. I mean, there's some stuff like vaulting and stuff like jumping is broken, and we've just stopped working on jumping for the moment until we add vaulting. But that requires prototyping, and that requires 2 months of work, and we haven't been able to get round to that yet, right? But I mean, mechanic-wise, we haven't really added much that's failed because, again, I've had 3 years in Arma 3 to kind of work out these systems and just take them straight across, and they work now quite well in Battlegrounds.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go for another question. It's shown up a bunch of times.
Hit it.
Do you consider the one... This question comes from Fixer and a bunch of other people, and I'm going to paraphrase it for kind of a designer-focused angle, is would you consider increasing the number of players that can be on a server or on a map? And do you have any strong opinions about how many people you think makes a fun version of this game?
I don't really want very many more. I think 100 is kind of a good number. With a lot more players, you have the start of the game is a lot more intense and a lot more killing goes on. And for me, the start of the game is about getting away from people, getting your loot, and then worrying about fighting when the blue zones start hitting. And that, to me, is when Battle Royale takes place, is, in those play zones. At the start, it should be about looting. So for our game mode, 100 players is what I believe is a good number. Competitively, we'll probably need to drop that down a little bit more to maybe 64, just so that RNG element is really reduced, because as long as you loot for long enough, you'll get good gear.
I was surprised to discover today that all the gear that I've been unlocking, the stuff that carries over from round to round, the cosmetic stuff, that's all in my Steam inventory. Those are all like items outside of the game, which opens up the possibility down the road. I mean, people are already selling them and trading them on the marketplace for money.
Sure.
Do you have what's your stance on monetization in a game like this? Like, do you feel it's okay, but just with cosmetic items, or not at all, or would you anything else? Or
putting it bluntly, I would like to own an island someday. So
it's a good way to go about it.
No. I mean, for me, anything we do with the marketplace, I want to create a valuable economy. I want, people to be able to get crates. We'll have keys eventually. We're not doing monetization in early access, only afterwards. And keys to open crates, make it simple, but also, try to have a rarity that, for opening a crate, you can get a skin that's worth a $10 or $20 and stuff. And kind of, I don't want to encourage gambling. I'm very happy now Steam has kind of put in their terms, you cannot get this for gambling. But, I still believe that the skin economy, so to speak, is a good thing to have in a game, because it's monetization for us, but also, it gives an economy for clothing items, which is...
So no Playerunknown's gacha, right?
In China.
We need to clarify what the term of gacha there is, because it's kind of close. But and so the question that kind of also comes from the chat, but so if you had a private island, would you want to turn it into a real life Battlegrounds?
God, no.
Okay, so I'll actually jump off that into a question I had before the stream started. As I said earlier, this is actually one of the more fun games to play in that it's really friendly. Like like I've said, every squad I've jumped into has been everyone's been very chill about their experiences. What are and despite that, like what you're arguably showing in the game here, like this kind of like this will they or won't they, this tense, like, is there someone behind that door? These are really cool, tense experiences to have. What are kind of the social or human experiences that you think are too far in a game that lets you get a little brutal and a little tense? Like, what do you think is too far even for a game like this?
Well, we're putting in takedowns, and they look pretty brutal as well, where you can sneak up behind someone, knee them into the face, and then stamp on their jaw. I mean, I like a bit of super violence. It's good for letting the tension out. But I mean, with our game, it's never going to be to the extent that, like, for example, DayZ does it, where you can force feed people stuff and have them vomit and so on. I think for our game, it's just the violence we want to get across is just short, swift, and visceral. That's why everything's a bit bigger and our blood splatters are a little bit bigger. Just it helps to know when you've hit someone, but it's that extra bit of action.
Yeah,
you called it before the stream kind of like it's got a pulpy feel to it. Yeah,
but this is it. It's just everything's a bit bigger, a bit brighter. Car explosions are a little bit larger, and it sets you up. And especially when we have our cinematic camera in 3D replays, you can play stuff back in slow motion and record some really cool shots in high res of your game, which I'm excited for. I think we'll see some interesting content come out of that.
Yeah. If you don't mind, if we could rewind back to something that you said a little bit earlier. It was about taking out jumps and vaults, and how it's going to take like another 2 months of work to do something like that. Could you kind of explain the process? Because I think that some people, who don't understand the amount of work one needs to go into something like that. It's like it's just jumping, right?
Oh yeah, no, this is it. There's a switch. Yeah, just turn on vaulting. There we go. No, I mean, first of all, we have motion captured animations for vaulting and jumping and stuff, and we're going back to Prague next week to get some more. And then because the world wasn't designed for climbing or vaulting, that was the level. It's such a huge level that we didn't spend a lot of time worrying about that. It was just a simple jump. So because of that, we have to build a system that basically scans in front of a player and figure out what's there, and then figure out what animation to do in that thing. And then you have to make sure that doesn't cost a lot on the client, or, if it's performance heavy. And so this takes, quite some time to, first of all, prototype out and see if we can get a basic system working, and then to polish it off and make it look fluid. Because really, I want a system that you don't think about, that you just press spacebar and your character is up and over or across an obstacle, and it's just part of the game. Movement in this game shouldn't be that clunky. It should be a little bit clunky so it feels a bit real, but I want all movement in the game just to be super smooth.
How much time of your week do you spend thinking very hard about things people shouldn't think about?
I don't have to spend that much time, luckily. Yeah. I have a lead game designer to do that for me. Like JC, I mean, the amount of research, like I have a OneNote section that's filled with various design docs. His is, quadruple the size easily, and so in depth about every little thing that people can and can't do. But that's why early access is great, because you can just watch people, and especially like Twitch and early access is great bug finding. It's finding how people think about the game, how they play the game, seeing them do stuff that you could never think they'd do. It's great. It's the best way to test your game, I guess.
Yeah, you keep you do a great job of calling out the people you work with as doing a good chunk of the heavy lifting here. But that raises the question.
Do. I mean,
right.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
So how do you feel about like what some call like the auteur theory of game development? The idea that like your name is on the game, like it's I mean your handle is right there in the top, and here we are chatting with you, and you made this game with a very talented team of people. Like, how does that stress you out being on the front of the box all the time, so to say, or not so much? No,
listen, like the reason it's called Playerunknown's Battle Royale or Battlegrounds is because Battlegrounds as a title, you just get in problems. There's so many other Hearthstone Battlegrounds and all these other Battlegrounds that calling it was the reason I called the Arma 3 mod Playerunknown's Battle Royale, because I couldn't really call it Battle Royale because of the movie. So, just to get around copyright issue, just calling it Playerunknown's anything, it's as simple as that. There's no ego involved. There was some pressure then having my name on the game that it, hopefully was a success.
Yeah.
But as well, we get a lot of shtick for, having it all in caps, for example, which is just, I think it looks better as a designer. I think all caps just looks neater and tidier, and so there's no kind of shouting it, and it's like it looks better to my eye.
That's where that designer background comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably
right. Like, sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to make a joke.
Oh, please make a joke.
Oh no, I was going to say you were probably really sad when I had to write up our news story earlier, and I had to use proper editorial spelling, and you look.
I just want the AP style guide to put like Playerunknown's Battlegrounds all in caps, please. Like esports is all small letters now.
Yeah.
So where do you stand on esports? This is very important to me.
Oh, I don't care.
All right.
It's a fucking word. I think all small letters looks nice. That's what it's just. I don't know.
I mean, I'll trust you. You got a background in design. I like a big P. I like a real big P. But that's other than that.
We're gonna take that out of context now. So, like, there's actually a good question from Redrick asking, since Korea is the primary talking point, does China come into play with this game? I would ask, like, regionally, in Asia, what's going on with Battlegrounds there? What are your plans?
We've been kind of surprised, to be honest. Like, we kind of suspected, like, China have shown good growth and player counts. We have a pretty balanced curve. If you look at our curve for daily players, it's quite balanced in that we get quite high numbers during, Western peak times, and the same during like Eastern and Asian times. But we were surprised that a lot of Korean streamers have really taken after the game, and really play it quite a lot. And some celebrities in Korea have been playing the game, and the same in Japan and China as well. It's been great over there. We weren't quite expecting it. When we were coming up to launch, our market was, the West and the US and EU, but then we've seen this great growth in Korea and Japan as well, which is, it's great to see.
So is it localized for Korea then?
Well, we have localized to Korea, Chinese, Japanese. I think there's German. We have it localized to about 10 to 12 languages, I think, already.
To me it strikes, and I'll have a follow-up question to this, but like it sounds like such an advantage that Bluehole is in Korea, and you're like quote unquote Western based, and Steam is very much obviously very popular in the West. So it seems like you just got everything covered, and it feels like a lot of developers are trying to solve this coverage issue.
Well, no, Steam, we've been lucky as well in that, that we've had streamers that have loved Battle Royale for a long time, Guys like Lyric, they've loved those game modes, and they've been playing, Lyric's been playing Arma 3 Battle Royale for the last, 3 years, essentially, and, having these streamers on your side for when you release a game has been, we've been incredibly fortunate for that. And, I think it's how you get your worldwide coverage now is, with Battle Royale, I've always been friendly to streamers across the world, from like, Russia to France to Italy to Spain, Latvia, and just friendly to them, and kind of making sure that, they always are informed of what we're doing.
Yeah. And I just had one quick regional question about what's the split between Asia, Europe, North America, player base wise, do you know?
They're all about the same. Really, we've seen kind of quite even growth across all regions. It's, there seems to be a worldwide kind of surge in interest, which is, it's great. I don't know what else is like. It's fantastic.
I'm going to get to one question from the chat, and then I have a question that comes from what we were doing before the stream. Mr. Sam Adams has been patiently curious about if shadows will ever be forced in the future. Earlier, he was asking about, players who turn off shadows so they can see slightly better, I guess.
At the moment, I don't believe you can turn off shadows. Can you? I think you can set them very low, but I don't think we have shadows off just yet.
Yeah.
But, eventually, I want everyone playing on essentially the same settings.
Yeah.
That for a competitive game, you have to have that. So there won't be any stage of like turning shadows completely off. If low shadows will still look the same as high shadows, just with more detail.
Yeah. As Pet sort of follows up, how do you balance, and maybe this is a question for your wonderful design team you're working with, how do you balance the games for different PC specs so that there won't be too much difference in how things look?
We have like our art team, our art lead, Tessok, he spends hours, poring over like, especially the lighting we have in the game. They spent months trying to get this really looking right indoor and outdoor. But, we have a great QA team. We have like 4 guys that play the game constantly on different rigs, and they have different rigs built for them there that we just test and try to get it looking as good as possible. Like recently, we had to change the grass that, on low-end PCs, it just completely, the grass disappeared. We were on the top of our games, I think, with their grass comparison. But the art team spent 2 or 3 weeks on it and figured out a way to adjust the density of the grass and keep performance somewhat the same. So now it appears great, both the same on high and low.
Mr. Sam Adams also wants to clarify that apparently you can. It's in the engine. So maybe you have to take that back to your QA team.
Yeah, more of the I&I things we need to lock down.
Yeah.
But again, this is we haven't really been focused on that end of things right now. Up until early access launch, it's been all about getting the systems in, the features in. Now we're really starting to lock down the security of the game, all these kind of features and stuff that we haven't had the time to do before. But as I said, our team's expanding now, and they're really serious about getting this game out and finished. It's great to see.
Cool. Then I have the next question I wanted to talk about. I was glancing at Twitter a couple weeks ago, and forgive me if you were sort of groaning expecting this question. You, Mike Bethel, and a few other developers were talking about the work hours you put in on this game, and you sort of had to walk back when you said, we're working so hard, and everyone was like, it sounds like you're crunching a lot. And you were like, no, it's not that bad. Like, I saw that go down. I'm kind of... You talked earlier about how many hours you guys work on. Could you sort of talk about that?
Oh, yeah, no, listen, I mean, like our hours in the office are 10 till 7. That's that's the hours. But a lot of these guys, as I said, they want to stay late. Like, no one forces them to be in the office. There's no kind of like, you have to work these hours, but, they want to. It's like either go home and play video games or stay in the office and make video games. And the company are very good. Like, they have credit cards for everyone that if you stay in the office after a certain time at night, you get a taxi home on the company. And there's like as well there's this kind of Asian work ethic that is like they work like seriously long hours. Now, like, Bluehole really look after the company, but most of the time, like, and this is not just crunching time, but it's just most of the time, people, I'm in the office from like 10 in the morning till 10 at night, 11 o'clock. Like, I put in 12, 13-hour days regularly.
Yeah.
But I don't mind doing it. It's, I know, yes, I should be working 8-hour days and, have my free time. But in my free time, I'm going home and sitting in front of a computer. So I'd rather do that in the office and get some stuff done. But I mean, no one, like, we don't force our employees or our staff to work, and, there was a big misunderstanding there. I was a bit flippant about it, I think. But really, there's no forcing anyone to work overtime and stuff like that. Most guys are staying there is because they're loving what they're doing, and now, especially with the success of the game, they just want to make this the best game they can. So, but most people are out of the office these days at like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Right. How do you, I mean, I'm not, I swear I'm not trying to like do that thing where people like ask about game developer drama or whatever. I'm just sort of genuinely curious. Are with people across the industry trying to grapple with either how many or how not many hours they're trying to work, how do you sort of feel when you have a team who if I take you at your word and I'm trying to, you say they're working very, this is coming from a place of passion and also kind of a local work culture. How does it feel then when you read people across the industry getting very cross with the idea of working long hours like that? Like, how do you sort of balance what you see other people say and what your experience is with your team?
I mean, I really don't know what to say to like people that, for me, it's we don't force anyone to stay in the office.
Right.
That's the key thing here. There's no one standing over them going, well, if you don't stay in, as long as deadlines are met, and deadlines are pretty reasonable. But, a lot of game developers, and especially younger game developers, will want to do more to kind of show that they have more value and stuff like this. And, sometimes promise too much. But, for me, I don't know. I don't mind working hard, as long as I'm working the same as the people under me, you know what I mean? That I'm not flitting off for days on end, or, I don't know. I haven't really strong opinions on this one way or the other. I enjoy working long hours, but, I don't think anyone should be forced to really, that's the key here.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think it's a particularly thorny problem in an industry that is so often driven by passion for the product. I mean, like, look at your own background as a modder who undoubtedly spent countless hours at night making...
Oh, Daisy Mod. I didn't have a way to restart and lock servers. I had to stay awake for about 36, 38 hours when I first launched Daisy Mod Battle Royale.
Wow.
Just restarting and locking servers, and had to tweet out going, I have to sleep now. That I have to sleep for 8 hours wake up, turn the servers back on again, go get breakfast, keep restarting. For days that went on, weeks. That was not fun.
Yeah, and we have to sort of wrap this up. We're getting to the end of our hour, but I should point out, for those who don't know, you are technically on vacation. You should not even be doing this.
Hey,
so thanks.
It doesn't look of a fireside chat,
Yeah.
I have nothing else to do. I'm on vacation, but no, it's been great.
Yeah. I have kind of a silly question. I don't know. I'm gonna throw it in at the end here. I want to know. What do people play in Korea? Like when you're around the office, what do they talk about? It's not this game. Is it a MOBA?
A lot of them play
StarCraft?
this game a lot,
Yeah?
but Overwatch is quite popular, and some of the MOBAs. Yeah, I mean, most Koreans they're just like this. Like after lunch, before lunch, on the train, off the train, they're on their phone playing some mobile game. It's very popular over there.
Huh. All right, we should probably. Is there any good stuff left over in chat, Brian?
I thought I saw something. I do. You already talked about the weather systems on Facebook. That's what people are saying. Someone asked earlier. It was Ben Zero. The question was, how do you sort of feel about hateful speech that people were tossing about in the airplane before the match? How do you feel?
Yeah, just mute everyone. Yeah, I'm sorry for creating the Battle Royale lobbies. They're terrible places. I mean, it's like compressed internet. Just add water.
Yeah, I mean, you can turn that into a question of how as the game continues to grow and it's already quite huge. How are you going to handle community management and moderation of this game?
For me, it's like we'll probably have a report system eventually and stuff like that, and. It's like the reason I love the lobbies in Battle Royale that sometimes you can come in and someone will be singing on a guitar, and people will be sitting around listening to them, and those moments, are worth it for me, there's a lot of just silly, angry children that, they're being rebellious, but in such a conservative way. It's like, that's not shocking, really. That's what you're going to come out with. Okay. It's like, oh matron. But it's a tough one to deal with. And it's in Arma 3B or we've just banned people. It's just racist, homophobic stuff. You just ban them straight away. Come back in 2 weeks. And if you do it again, it's perma.
Yeah.
But on the scale that we have, it's going to be a lot more difficult. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. You heard it here, you racist homophobes. Stay out or be quiet.
Just grow the fuck up. No one cares. It's like, oh, really?
They're coming for you. All right. Well, on that ominous note, thank you, Brendan, so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
I will
pleasure, guys.
I will commence the wrapping up ceremonies. This has been PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Our guest today has been Brendan Greene, aka PlayerUnknown. If you dig these kind of developer chats, we would super appreciate it if you would click the follow button, because we have a whole bunch of other developers coming on this week, next week, and beyond, just to talk to you about the process of making games. So if you appreciate that and click follow, we would super love it. If you want to criticize how we play games, how bad we are at games, feel free to do that too. And with that, I think it's time to sign off. Brendan, is there anywhere you want to send them to? A Reddit, a Twitter page, if they want to ask you more questions?
We have a Twitter at PU Battlegrounds, and there's a subreddit, I think, PU Battlegrounds as well. And of course, our forums at forums.playbattlegrounds.com. That's where most of the conversations happen.
Yeah, so if you have more questions about Battlegrounds, feel free to ask them there. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.